keep this going ourselves. So if you look at what the messages are, you will see that we are the ones who carry it out. Nobody can say nigger with such expression and with such velocity and with so much feeling as we do. Nobody white can keep up and kill us now as fast as we kill ourselves. 95% of our homicides are committed by other African Americans. So they have won that battle, and we continue to buy into it and let it go. We cover a whole lot of issues in the chapter. Family relationships, we call it relationship wrecks. Why can't black men and women get together to form strong families? One of the things that we have to keep in mind, that part of this institution of slavery was designed to break up the black family. And we go into a lot of details in the book about how that came to be. We have a chapter called Studs and Sluts, about why do we allow ourselves to be sexual objects and sexual predators. Keep in mind that it was illegal for a man to be a father in slavery. And that in order to make babies, one slave male would be sent off to another plantation to make a baby slave with someone they did not know and someone that they would never see again in their life. We have to understand these issues as we see these things we call pathologies and understand where they started. Because what we do now is we blame each other unduly for these things without connecting the dots to how they came to be. And so that leads to the separation and the self-hatred that we carry around with us. We need to understand how these things came to be. And that's what the book does throughout all of the chapters. But the most important thing that the book does, and the thing that I would not have been able to do this book had I not been able to see a way out, is we talk about solutions. We talk about answers.
Good.
That's great. You know, it is essential that we not just talk about problems, but talk about solutions.
That's right.
If you buy the premise, as I do, that the major driver of the problem is the propaganda that is carried out through the media 24/7, and if you buy, as I do, the idea that what a teacher says, what a parent says, what a minister says, what a counselor says, certainly is important. But all of those things can be overcome and overwhelmed by the constant bombardment of negative images that you get in media. Images are powerful. Images are powerful. Wars have been started on the basis of images and words. You can set off a whole nation of people against another people with a set of images and words. We saw it in the birth of a nation. We saw it in Hitler's Germany. It was propaganda that went against all of the other things that were that people were putting out against it, and it could not win. So what we have got to do is we have got to turn around the negative images and combat them with positive ones. And for the first time in our history, in the history of the world, we can do it. And we can do it because of the advent of the new technology. We can do it with a library card. Because now, with a library card, you can get to a computer, and when you get to a computer, well, you can build a piece of communications in the form of movies. You can have a movie studio, you can have a recording studio, and you can do it. For the first time, you can put together a platinum record without doing a record deal. And so that's where we're going. That's where we're headed. And what we have got to do is we've got to use this new technology to turn around centuries of brainwashing. And that's what we are, we talk about very specifically in the book. And that's why I am so hopeful. That's why what was seen in my demeanor as I signed these books, so obvious that you would mention that, boy, you seem like you're really excited about this. Because if I didn't see that, I would be depressed. I'd be depressed to know how pervasive this thing is and how much it affects us every day. We have a website, stopthebrainwash.com, which Willow manages. And I tell you, we never run out of material. I mean, it is constant that we have got something to talk about in terms of violations that need to be addressed. So it's stopthebrainwash.com. Become a part of that as you read the book. And we are going to actually turn this thing around. The other thing we're doing is we're trying to bring in other organizations to join the Resolution Project, other organizations that share a common goal. Instead of working against other organizations, because we have a chapter about that too called Disunity, that talks about how we have been conditioned to embrace individualism as opposed to collectivism. Because if we can if they can keep us separated from each other, then they can continue to prevail. So there's a lot of work for us to do, but at least we can keep our eyes on an objective, keep our eyes on a prize. And that prize is total resolution of this race issue in America, which, because of how it has evolved, it's no longer about white people. It's not about racism, white racism. It is not about how white people feel about us, what white people do for us. It's how we feel about ourselves and what we do to ourselves instead of for ourselves. That is where we've got to learn how to focus. And not because we've been conditioned to be dependent and helpless. It's learned helplessness. That I always say, if you throw us in the water, we yell help, without thinking about the fact that, well, maybe we can swim. We can swim, but we've been taught that we can't.